Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. President, President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, ably represented by the Vice President, Senator Kashim Mustafa Shatima, GCON, members of the National Assembly, honorable ministers, permanent secretaries, chief executive officers, the chief executive officer of the NESG and members of the NESG board, as well as the organizing committees that work so hard to deliver this. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, everyone. Let me join Ni Yusuf. It's always confusing why he's reading the opening address. I'm doing the opening remark to underscore that because it was done to underscore the fact that this is a partnership between government and the Nigerian economic society team, which came to be known as NESG. And Your Excellency, Mr. President, just before you arrived, there was an interesting panel in which the history of the NESG was reviewed by a very competent panel of those who have been there at the very beginning, including Dotun Suleiman and as well as many others. And Your Excellency, it's my pleasure to welcome you at this 30th summit organized by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Your Excellency, Mr. President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me start by, on behalf of all of us, extending our sincere appreciation to His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for his continued support and commitment to the summit process. It is important to recall that Mr. President personally participated in the 29th summit, and today he is being represented by His Excellency, the Vice President. This is the clearest testament and reaffirmation of the high regard this administration accords to the economic dialogue. Your Excellency, Mr. President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this summit has over the years played a pivotal role in the sustenance of our national dialogue on the economy and frame our deliberations within the context of the aspirations for a better quality life for our people. It discusses our vision of equity and social justice, the enviable economic and political order we are committed to creating, and forms the basis for forging consensus by promoting and sustaining cooperation between the public and private sector. I'm sure if someone was listening to Ni Yusuf's opening address, he will have think it is made by a public officer, because it speaks to the collaboration in terms of we don't have time to waste. We should we should celebrate our achievement and focus on those things we can do better. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the summit has remained one of the biggest platforms for dialogue among top policymakers and corporate leaders. The 3 decades of this partnership between the federal government and the Nigerian Economic Summit had provided a veritable platform for interrogating public policy and preparing enduring solutions to the country's socio-economic problems, particularly for a government that during the campaign interacted and made an undertaking to the National Economic Summit Group that it will sustain the partnership. Last year's summit theme was Pathways to Sustainable Economic Transformation and Inclusion. The summit came at a critical juncture in the nation's social and economic trajectory as a new administration that took up in May 2023 was settling in office, having campaigned on a renewed hope agenda and strategy. It focused on crafting immediate and long-term strategies for fostering economic growth and development. The summit recommendation continued to inspire government to reform critical sectors of the economy. For instance, the 29th summit emphasized the urgent need to tighten foreign exchange rules, broaden official market, and harmonize fiscal and monetary policies for a balanced approach to economic stability. It highlighted infrastructure development as pivotal to sustainable economic growth, recommending prioritizing power generation, road networks, and transportation systems. Pursuant to the renewed hope strategy and in line with this recommendation, President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration has sustained its foreign exchange reforms, eliminating the hitherto multiple rates, even as the Central Bank of Nigeria regularly fine-tunes its guideline to enhance monetary stability. Because of the bold, painful tackling of the punitive subsidy regimes that is affecting both currency and energy, funding to the three tiers of government had improved, in addition to enhancing the ability of governments to meet social investment and even minimum wage payments. The President approved the renewed Hope Infrastructure Fund earlier in the year. The fund is an innovative tool to generate financing, not from the budget, but utilizing equity component on the budget to promote, enhance, and create employment opportunities in transformational projects in railway, coastal railway, the 700-kilometer, for example, 1,000-kilometer Sokoto-Badagry superhighway, and as well as dams, irrigations, and investment in an energy transition led by CNG, which is designed to cheapen Nigeria's energy availability so that we remain competitive. Between last year's summit and today, we have had a 2.7 trillion naira supplementary budget, a 28.77 2024 annual budget, and a 6.2 trillion naira amendment which incorporated the renewed Hope Infrastructure Fund into the budget. The three budgets demonstrate our commitment to restoration of macroeconomic stability, funding our priorities such as security, agriculture, and food security, infrastructure, human capital development, social investment, as well as innovation and the creative economy. Innovative measures include expansion of consumer credit to support manufacturing and access to affordable credits, mortgage reform to expand access to housing, student loans funding, CNG penetration as expansion program, as well as digitization of government services, all intended to, among others, expand the economy, reduce deficit, and attain an increase in capital spending. These measures are complemented by a host of trade and fiscal reforms, some of which Ni have spoken about. In addition, the decision to accept Naira payment for crude oil for domestic refiners and the oversubscription of the domestic dollar bond issued are both expressions of confidence in both our Naira and growing confidence in our economy. Increased investment is being witnessed in infrastructure, energy, agriculture, and digital economy. Your Excellency, just a few days ago, the ministry held its joint planning board meeting in Nasarawa, and in a confirmation that subnational economies are taking up the opportunities, the governor informed us that 2 lithium processing plants are currently being constructed in in Nasarawa. Just last week again, I was in Katsina State, where the governor told us, as a result of improvement in security, 95% of the areas where planting did not take place last year in 2023, this year, those areas have been planted. I think those are significant evidences that the reform and investments are working. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, including these governance and institutional reforms have helped improve our macroeconomic performance. Our GDP has been enhanced from 2.98% growth in first quarter of 2024 to 3.19% in quarter 2 of 2024. Inflation is trending downwards, while external reserves are improving. Our external trade balance improved slightly in the second quarter of 2024, all testaments to the efficacy of the reforms. Therefore, we seek cooperation and understanding of the broad spectrum of the citizenry, as there is indeed light at the end of the tunnel. The economy is facing the right direction, and the decline has been arrested. What has been achieved is a result of boldness, resilience, and collaboration, and thus we need more to compensate for the decades of underinvestment and to ensure that we deliver a collaborative, competitive, and stable environment. We must not determine the winners, but ensure equity. The economic stabilization bills, the emergency economic team, and the presidential economic management team are all testaments to the desire of the administration to collaborate more. Your Excellency, the theme of this year's summit, Collaborative Action for Growth and Competitiveness and Stability, reflects the critical imperatives required to sustain our economic growth and development and improve the lives of all. This is consistent with the government's commitment to the renewed hope agenda and the revised national development plan, and to continue the collaboration with the private sector. Your Excellency, I will conclude by again recalling that before you came, Dr. Suleiman said something that 30 years ago, when the NESU was established, it was a military era, and the decision-making was unitary. And thus that the import of his statement was that time, if you are able to convince the national leadership, then everything flows smoothly. Now we are in a constitutional federalism with 3 tiers of government and with a presidential team that are committed to federalism. So the task is even more demanding in the sense that you have to convince different levels of government. So it is on this maybe background that we have to, and in fact, the constitutional democracy increases the demand for government services because you have institutions, assemblies that they owe their existence to promoting and ensuring constituency demand. So it is in this background one can appreciate that turning the economy in the right direction, given the need to convince and carry along both subnationals, development partners, international institutions, and countries and rating agencies who are expressing confidence and partnering work for the commendable action is all the more noteworthy. We have interacted with many people, many institutions, and they, particularly our development partners led by the World Bank, and they have been very supportive because they have seen the transparency with which the administration has approached partnership in terms of endearing confidence so that all of us, I believe by the time we meet in 2025, the positive trajectory under the renewed hope agenda will be cemented. Thank you for giving me this.
Can we give a resounding round of applause?